welcome to KiwaniTalk. I'm your host, Gary Gardner, on this show, which is the longest running cable access television program in the entire world. Today we are working from our studios at WDHS, Dearborn High School, my alma mater, and I'm happy to be here once again. And today we're talking about something that is very important, very serious, and very topical, I think. We're going to talk about mental health issues, depression, and we have people, actually the founder of the Bethany and Galdes Foundation. We have Catherine Galdes. Catherine, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
We also have Maria Evans, who is a clinical board member from the Bethany and Galdes Foundation. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. And I hear before that you work here at Dearborn High?
I do.
Okay, well, I was here right back when Moby Dick was a minnow. That's so long ago when I was here. But it seems things look. This room is the same as it was 50-something years ago.
Is it really?
So more technology. That's all. So, Catherine, you are the founder of the Bethany and Galdes. Who is or who was Bethany and Galdes?
Bethany was my daughter. And she died by suicide when she was 16.
Okay, that's a horrible, horrible thing.
Yeah.
And your background, what's your background, your education background, and what brought you to start up the Bethany and Galdes Foundation?
Oh my goodness, I have a lot of an interesting background. I started out actually in marketing and international studies, and worked and with computers and software and all kinds of stuff, and traveled. And then I went back to school when I decided I wanted to do something more service-oriented. I got a degree in occupational therapy from Wayne State, and then started working at like the University of Michigan Hospital, and I did community mental health, and I did all kinds of other.
So I should know this, but what exactly is occupational therapy?
Occupation, you should know it. Everybody, even people going to school for occupational therapy, it's one of the test questions. What are you trying to, what is an occupational therapist? Occupational therapists work with people who have any difficulty engaging in their occupations, so of life, right? So your occupations are work, play, and self-care. So if you have difficulty brushing your teeth or taking a shower or getting dressed, or if you have difficulty engaging in going out to play whatever you like to do for fun, or if you have difficulty performing your work. Well, for students, their work is, work in school. And for really young children, their work is play, so it gets all kind of modeled up. But anything that where someone has a reason that they have difficulty engaging in their occupations of life, we will come in and do an evaluation of their motor skills, their visual skills, their integration, their ability to attend, and there's a whole bunch of evaluations we might perform in order to help determine how we could help.
And Maria, what's your background? How did you get to be a clinical board member of the Bethany and Galdes Foundation?
Yeah, I actually had met one of the other executive board members at this business meeting I was attending, and I own a practice in Northville, therapy practice, and so I've been doing that for a number of years. And when I heard about the foundation trying to spread more information about depression being a life-threatening disease, as well as hoping to start up a center where people could go who are acutely suicidal and have it specialize in that. Right now it's just hospitals that have any type of mental health crisis that comes in, and it's more of a generalized care. We're hoping to have a specialized one.
And your educational background, you went to that school in Ann Arbor.
I did, yes.
What are your degrees, and what's your direct occupation?
Yeah, I got my undergrad degrees. I double majored in brain behavioral cognitive science and English, and then a master's in clinical psychology.
Okay, so you guys have got some background in these types of
Yes.
things. So the idea of depression, and people sometimes recognize it, sometimes they recognize it and choose to bury it or whatever. What are some of the signs of depression for someone who has a family member or themselves? What can they look for? What should they look for?
Yeah, that's a great question. Some of the most hallmark signs would be feeling like you just want to isolate more. Things that you used to enjoy, you no longer enjoy them. Feeling down or sad. If it's for younger people, though, sometimes increased irritability can be more of a symptom than feeling down or sad. And for at least 2 weeks or longer, those would be some of the main things to look for.
What can someone do for that? How do you, once you recognize it, what is the protocol for treating it or dealing with it?
Yeah, reach out to either your general doctor or make an appointment with a mental health care professional. Research shows that it takes people on average about 10 years from the onset of symptoms before they get treatment, and from a mental health professional, people should not wait that long because life just piles on top.
And it seems that there's perhaps a level of shame or embarrassment about mental health issues. So how do you deal with that, Catherine? If someone has this issue or a family and says, my dad is not doing good, how do you recognize it? How do you get someone to go to the well and start drinking the water?
Right, and it's very difficult, right? So you have to work from the grassroots sort of things and start talk to the community and to people. And I think we're always trying to tell people, don't wait until you don't have to be like thinking about wanting to die before you go talk to a therapist. Going to a therapist should be like going to your dentist, so that you could be, I'm going to the therapist today, or I'm going, just like someone saying I'm going to the dentist. So we need to change. That's a cultural thing that we are working on. I think that the foundation works on it by in all of our events that we do, where we talk about it. We talk to people about how frequent and how common it is. Like in high school children, amongst children as they go through their high school career, 1 in 4 will contemplate the possibility of wanting to die by suicide. So it's more common than you realize. And so giving people the freedom and the comfort level of being able to go and talk to somebody, or being alert for someone saying things that maybe indicate a warning, like, oh yeah, I don't care about this test because I'm not even going to be around, or someone showing some of the signs that Maria was talking about, for us to reach out to each other and then to make it feel like it's okay. It's okay that you're feeling depressed, and are you thinking about dying by suicide? And I think that it's okay to talk about those things. And if you want, I can help you call somebody, or you can talk to me. Try to make it more of a normalized thing, because a lot of people are having thoughts that they're afraid to share, and it brings on the shame, and the shame just leads to more difficulty with being able to get help.
And it seems though that people could be hesitant because of the costs associated with treatment. I don't have insurance. I've got too high a deductible. Mm-hmm. How does that play in, and how do you get around that component where people need help, but they feel, maybe incorrectly, that they can't get the help?
So you can call up, what's the new number?
988.
988 is the new number. If you are feeling like you are in turmoil, you don't have to be contemplating suicide, you can just be having a really horrible day, you can call 988. And there'd be someone on the line to talk to you, right? They're not therapists, but they are someone that can direct you to someone, maybe therapists that work on a sliding scale, or maybe therapists that have take other forms of payment. Maybe they have grants that are available.
So
what do you know of?
Yeah, it was nicely put, Kathy. Some therapists offer sliding scale fees for those who don't have insurance. Most insurances now cover mental health services, so calling the insurance and asking about your particular plan. Services are just more widely available. There's also online therapy apps now where the price tends to be a little bit lower. But in person is really nice too.
One of the things, and I think there were some good things that came out of the COVID and the Zooming, and there's many other bad things. The bad thing, I think, was people became more isolated. How about what happened with people's isolation when they can't come to school, can't go to work, can't go to the store? What effect did that have, if you have any anecdotal or actual real world numbers on those?
Well, one of the things I saw was a big increase in depression and anxiety. There was a great research study that was done that showed the more faces and smiles and just people that you saw within your day-to-day actually improved quality of life. And so when isolation happened, we lost a lot of just seeing different people on our typical daily routines. And then being around the same people all the time tends to bring about some stress. There's not those extra breaks. And then especially with depression, the isolation, as you're mentioning, that's one of the hallmarks of depression. People feel very alone, very isolated. And so then if they're not getting more of those interactions, it's just making symptoms worse. And one of the other things is during the pandemic, hospitals also had a really hard time having enough beds for people who were feeling in crisis and suicidal. And so I think a lot of the hospitals, especially Metro Detroit, were seeing these increase in numbers with suicidality.
And part of the good part about the pandemic was the technology ubiquitous, and that's everywhere for Zoom and those type of apps. And you mentioned that sort of in passing. How does that, people don't have to go to make an appointment, don't have to take an hour to drive someplace. How's that impacting the ability to have recognition and then treatment of these issues?
Actually, the pandemic was great for the area of telehealth or telemedicine, because prior to the pandemic, most insurances didn't cover therapy done through an online platform. And then when the pandemic lockdowns happened, almost all the insurance companies started covering telehealth and now have continued to cover telehealth. So before, if clients went off to college, it might mean saying goodbye to their therapist, but now through telehealth, they can continue that therapy and have that continuity of care, which has been wonderful.
Is there any particular age group that has a more vulnerable, or are more vulnerable to the depression issues? Teenagers, middle-aged people, older people, or does it go right across the whole board?
Across the whole board, suicide is the second leading cause of death, though, for ages 15 to 32. And so it's a really serious thing for that age group.
So, zeroing back in on your particular family without getting too deep, when your daughter's tragedy and that happened, after that happened, did you, in retrospect, did you think there's things I could have looked at? And if that's the case, do you help apply that to your foundation and the people that are out there and say, here's my particular lesson?
Well, I pick it apart all the time, like what was going on, what happened, what could I have done, what didn't I do, what could have been different. And we knew that Bethany was struggling. I knew that Bethany was struggling, and I had looked for ways to help her. And my background as an occupational therapist, we study psychology, and I worked at the University of Michigan psychiatric unit way back, but as an occupational therapist. So I knew, and she was actually hospitalized twice. But even though I knew that there were lots of different forms of therapy that would help, they weren't readily available. Like speaking to a therapist is one really good, important piece of it, right? But there are other things like physical activity, nutrition, the kind of sleep that you're getting. And you may get a lot of people talking to you and saying, sleep is important, and nutrition is important, and physical activity is important, but there's nobody really prescribing and saying, this is how much physical activity you need in a week, or how often, every day, and for how long should you do it in a day, and to how high should your heart rate go, right? So we really need those kinds of, you need to apply these things like nutrition and sleep and physical activity and connectedness in a prescriptive manner. It's like when you have a medication like an antibiotic. You don't take the antibiotic one day and then the next day go, well, maybe I'll take 2 today because I feel really bad, or maybe I won't take any today and I'll do more tomorrow, right? You have to have a prescriptive amount of a medication. So you need a prescriptive amount that meets the just right amount for you. So if someone who's been sitting on the couch a lot or sitting at their desk a lot, they can't get up and start running 5 miles a day, right? But just doing maybe 20 minutes of physical exercise, that actually got their heart rate up to something safe, right, then that would, research shows, release neurochemicals that can improve your mood. There's lots of things that are proven to improve your mood. And I was trying to do those things, but I didn't really have the tools I needed. And we were working on it. And it's one of the reasons we started the foundation, is because we want those tools to be available, and we want them to be, we try to educate people about them. We try to promote them, and try to develop a way to get them to people in a prescriptive manner.
But I imagine even if you have the tools and they're available, if the person who is going through the depression says, I'm fine, I don't need it,
Right.
how do you drag them to the program, or is that part of what the foundation helps the parents and spouses and sisters and brothers and things like that?
I'm a real believer in the relationship piece of it, right? That a lot of times in mental or behavioral health right now, we deal a lot with the carrot and the stick, like you do this, then you're going to get this kind of thing. Like you've got to do this much to earn this at the end of the week. But I really believe that if you meet someone where they're at, especially someone who's depressed and feeling really bad about themselves, and they have thoughts in their head about people not wanting them around, or that they're a burden, that if you have that relationship with them and you meet them where they're at, and I know you don't feel like getting out of bed today, and so I'm just going to sit here with you today. It's okay, right? We'll do as much as we can. When you're ready to get out of bed, I'm going to be there.
Well, we're going to continue our discussion with Catherine Galdes and Maria Evans with the Bethany and Galdes Foundation. We got some words from Kiwanis about what's going on. Come back and talk about the origins of the foundation and what it is and how you can get involved and help, or be part of it, or reach out for help if you need it. Don't go away. Welcome back to KiwaniTalk. I'm your host, Gary Gardner, where we're talking today about the Bethany and Galdes Foundation with Catherine Galdes and Maria Evans, from the founder and clinical board member of the foundation. So, Catherine, after your daughter passed, it took a while, I'm sure, but how did you get the idea of creating a foundation in her honor?
Well, it didn't happen just like, oh, I have an idea, I want a foundation. It really, I feel like it was very I was spiritually led, guided to do it. It was a matter of a bunch of people coming together. Bethany died really close to her birthday, and so we would get together around that time, and we would, pick it apart, like we were saying before, like why, what could we have done, what would we have done? And we came upon like the ideas of basic things like the nutrition and physical activity, and there's a lot of research-based areas we were talking about that are not promoted. And we said, well, let's just do, what can we do? What can we do to promote this? And I put up these big poster things on the walls, and I asked everybody who had come together just to sort of celebrate Bethany's birthday, was what it was after she had passed. And I said, what can we do to promote nutrition? What can we do to promote physical activity? What can we do to promote mental health, right? And everybody went around in little groups of 4 and put things on there about what they thought we could do, and there was like lots of ideas, like let's go to football games and talk about it, and let's go to, let's have an app that people can do where we'll promote their activities. There's lots and lots of ideas, right? So I had all these papers with lots of ideas, and I had a list of people who said they wanted to help. And I called up another friend and I said, I have all these things. Do you think you can help me organize this and figure out what we should do first? I mean, because you can't do everything. So she said, wow, you do have a lot. You need a foundation. I'm like, okay. So she had started a foundation before, so she led me through the process of starting a foundation so that we could promote physical activity and exercise and nutrition and sleep and all the therapy, all the kinds of things that we knew would help, that research has shown to help. And then at our first meeting, I had asked some people to be on the board, and we got together and we had our first meeting and talked about our purpose to promote mental health ideas and to to bring awareness about the fact that depression is a life-threatening disease. Many people don't think about depression as a life-threatening disease, but it is a life-threatening disease, and we need to start addressing it as such. You know, suicide rates have gone up and up even since then. It's very sad. But after we came up with this and we decided to do, we had our board meeting, someone said, oh, so in order to do the things you want to do, you probably need brick and mortar place for people to go. I was like, oh, I had never even thought about the fact that we probably really need a building, and we want someone to be able to go when they're in acute distress, if they're thinking about dying by suicide and they're required to be hospitalized. Instead of going to a hospital, we want them to have somewhere else that's more appropriate, somewhere that's specifically designed for someone who's thinking about dying by suicide, but because of depression, so that they could be treated with the types of treatments and get a program together that would help them down a path of health.
And you named it, and is it a 501c3
Yes.
charitable corp? So if you make a donation, you can get a deduction. But if they wanted, let's just start the contact stuff here. What's the website?
Bethany and, so it's B-A-G Foundation, or is it Bethany and Galdes? Isn't that terrible?
BAGaldesFoundation.org.
BAGaldesFoundation.org. And guess what? By the miracle of technology, it's right there in front of us. We can't see it, but
nice.
the people out there can see it. It's kind of amazing. Is there a phone number people can call too?
They could call 313-590-3743.
Okay, and so you had this idea. So you went out the next day and bought a building with the money that you had laying around, right? Or how did you come up with the money?
Well, we didn't get a building yet. So right now, but I really had this idea that God is leading us on this path, and it's going to happen however it's supposed to happen. And we've been pursuing buildings, but we're also holding events where we worked with Soul Shop to talk to.
You work with, I'm sorry?
We worked with Soul Shop. It was
okay, Soul Shop, okay.
Soul Shop is someone that came and gave a talk to a group of people that were interested in promoting life, in talking to other people in their community who might be at risk of dying by suicide, who wanted to have an ear out for someone who's feeling really sad, and taught them how to reach out to them, to make connections, because we believe in that relationship piece really strongly.
So how long has the foundation been up and running as a foundation?
Is this 4 years?
I think about 4 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so you find that people say, I'm going to help, and they do help, but how many people do you have on the board, and how many volunteers do you have, if you have any idea on those numbers?
So we probably have about 10 people on the board, and then additional volunteers. We probably, like when we have our foundation event once a year, there's probably at least 60 volunteers that come through there as getting things up and then running it. A lot of the students here from the high school will come and volunteer. They're fantastic volunteers.
And you have the events. What kind of events do you have? Are these fundraising events, or are they just fun events, or everything? So
that's what I was going to say. That's my downfall. Is at this point, I've been told that we really need to raise funds, because I really feel strongly about wanting people to come to these events to learn about the ways that you can prevent death by suicide, right? And so we've always made them free, and we've always made them, promoted them so that we'd give something away, so people come and you'll get something. So if anything, we've only charged something to cover the cost of some parts of it. So now we will have a fundraiser. It's going to be coming up in March. We want to have maybe a Trivia Pursuit night, but
in the meantime, I'm sure if there's not today, there will be soon on the bagaldes.org site. There's going to be a link and say, I want to contribute, and you can push a button.
There is.
Okay, well then there is one.
And we have had lots of donations of people. It's really, the community has been very supportive.
And the community, talk about, is it a community of just mental health professionals, or students, or parents, or what is the diversity of your volunteers?
It is very diverse. It is students, it is parents, it is community members that don't have children. It's church members. It's
open to all.
It is. It's
so
just a coming together of a lot of people.
So if one of our viewers is having an issue with themselves or a family member, they can reach out to the Bethany and Galdes Foundation through the phone number or the website. How do you connect them, and who do you connect them to, or how do you screen those people?
Well, at this point, because we don't have a building, if they really are at risk, they need to dial the
988.
988.
988,
I wrote it
yes.
down. I remembered.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
It's good. And but if they they're like want to find some resources, we have a resource list on our website, or they could call and we could help put them into connection with resources. Like I've had people call me about, a family member who they want to find ways to help them, and we try to connect them with different forms of resources and stuff.
And when you have people call, how many people do you have had contact with that have reached out, have needed help, and you've been provided direction, go here, go there, or provided volunteer help for them? How many people, any idea how many people you've helped so far?
Well, that's hard to say, because a lot of times the people turn out like they need help, but they actually come and they end up being volunteers. They end up giving help.
Do you think that giving helps them with themselves, with their own issues too?
It helps me.
Okay.
No, it definitely helps me. I think that service is something that helps me feel better about the world. And when I see students or other people giving, it creates a lot of hope.
What kind of message of hope do we have that we can give to people out there going forward with the Bethany and Galdes Foundation and other people, and awareness and knowledge? What's your message for our viewers?
That you're not alone. And there's always somebody that is there willing to talk. If somebody doesn't know of someone in their own personal circle, reach out to that 988 number, get connected with the Bethany and Galdes Foundation, and we'll help you find the connections that they need in the community.
And when they reach out, sometimes those resources, you direct them through their insurance, or there are other free resources that are available through other community grants and organizations?
There are resources out there with grants and that.
And if you go to the bagaldes.org website, you have links to those organizations and places and suggestions and things like that can help people out.
Right, yeah.
So if a family member or yourself is having this problem, it's not the end of the world. It shouldn't be the end of the world.
Right.
You should reach out for the help, for the hope, and that's the message that you're trying to give.
Right.
Yes, and reach out as soon as you start to notice symptoms occurring. Don't wait.
Yeah, and we're all in it together. We're all here for each other.
And once you get your first building here in Michigan, what's the long-term goal for expanding the foundation and spreading the word about how important it is to recognize and then get treatment for depression?
To have multiple centers all throughout Michigan, and then eventually to have it be a model for the rest of the country, a specific place for people feeling suicidal.
Yeah, mental health needs to go in that direction. It needs to be more specific. You have a place for someone with cancer and someone with kidney disease, and a different place for someone with difficulty with their spleen, or with different for broken bones. We should have different places for someone with autism and someone with schizophrenia and someone with depression, right? And we want to fill that. We want to fill that need for someone with depression.
Well, Catherine Galdes, it sounds like you have recognized a problem. You're not just sitting home moping, you're actually doing something about it. Full marks to you for doing that. That's great. And Maria Evans, being part of the clinical board, being a big help, that's a great thing. So remember the BA Foundation.org, and the phone number one more time.
313-590-3743.
Okay, founder, Catherine Galdes, clinical board member Maria Evans, thank you for coming on the program. I've learned a lot. I hope our viewers have too. Reach out if you have issues, yourself, family members, and look for not just here, but anywhere else you can find it, because there is hope, there is light, and you look forward, you're going to find it. I'm Gary Gardner. Next time, bye-bye.